Hello and welcome again to the Rider Review. This is Eric Curut Rider, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1996 movie titled Mission Impossible. Now, Mission Impossible is a spy action movie, and it runs for an hour and 50 minutes long. It is directed by Brian De Palma. It is produced by Tom Cruise and Paula Wagner, and the script was done by David Coep and Robert Towney, and the story was also done by David Coep and Steve Zalilian, and it is based on the TV series created by Bruce Geller. The score was done by Danny Elfman, the cinematography by Stephen Burham, and it was edited by Paul Hirsch. And the stars of the movie are Tom Cruise, uh, John Voight, Henry Czerny, Emmanuelle Beart, Jean Reno, Ving Rhames, Kristin Scott Thomas, and Vanessa Redgrave. And what did I think of this movie? I could never really quite figure out what makes Mission Impossible such a film that attracts me like it does. From the other viewers out there, the scenes that they're pining over the most include the break-in at the CIA headquarters, and the chase scene at the channel, that goes from England to France. These fans think that those two scenes are really the reasons for seeing this movie. And though they are correct in that perspective, that I'm not going to disagree with them. They are very memorable scenes, but that's not the only reasons why I liked Mission Impossible. In fact, there are far more better reasons that I like this movie a lot. Why do I enjoy this movie so much, you may ask? Well, for starters, let's start with the leading character, Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise. Unlike James Bond, Hunt refrains from being a spontaneous, trigger-happy spy who boozes on martinis and sleeps around with any female cohort who aligns with him. In this movie, he only just handles a gun just one time, but he never really actually opens fire with it. It's a shame that in the sequel and the ones after that, the sequel was, of course, directed by John Woo, and Mission Impossible 3, I believe J.J. Abrams handled it. I think Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation were both under the direction of Christopher McQuarrie. And I think there's going to be a sixth one coming up soon, so we'll just hopefully await for that. But it's a shame, really, that John Woo, who took over as the direction after this one, had to go in that direction in the sequel, where all the cheap thrills and the simplification of the story went. But this one here, we don't see too many fight scenes other than, the chase scene near the end. There's no guns or too much explosions. And in fact, this movie is pretty low-key in terms of its action sequences. So maybe some people might have been peeved off about that. A lot of other people may have been peeved off because this movie was supposed to be based on the original TV series that ran between 1966 to 1973, where they had stars like Martin Landau, Barbara Bain, and of course Peter Graves. And eventually, I think I heard that director Brian De Palma actually did try to get them to be in this sequel. But unfortunately, they all rebuffed at the idea because they didn't like the way how the only character in this movie that was from the original series, Jim Phelps, was going to be portrayed in this movie. I might be giving away spoilers to people who may have seen this movie, but I don't really want to give away spoilers, but I guess I'm probably left with no choice. Yes, that's right. Jim Phelps is the only character from the original series that comes on in this movie, and he is playing an antagonist. When yet in the original series he was a protagonist. Here he's kind of like the bad guy in this movie, the guy who was like behind the botched mission that was in Prague, where all the crew members were killed off, and Ethan Hunt was left as the misfortunate mole behind the botched operation, and now he's practically on the hunt with no real apparent reason as to why he should have been in the first place. So the top dog in the mission, the impossible mission force, the IMF, Ethan's fight plans are more smart and methodical rather than casual and slick like you would probably expect in a James Bond movie. He doesn't just randomly kills people one by one. And another characteristic I found so attracted to Ethan Hunt was his decency towards his female co-workers, like Claire Phillips, played by Emmanuelle Beart, who goes as far as respect the fact that she is a married lady, and of course she is of course married to his boss, Jim Phelps, played by John Voight. In fact, this spy doesn't really have any kind of sexual activity provided in this movie, which makes it all the more refreshing. I guess you could probably even say the same thing too about Jason Bourne in the Bourne Identity. The Bourne Supremacy, I I know he has a love interest in the first one, but I'm not gonna go too much into Bourne because we're doing Mission Impossible here. And I'm not actually putting down James Bond, but I just find that it's actually quite original and fascinating that our spy here, Ethan Hunt, is not a philandering womanizer. In fact, like I said, the female protagonist in this movie is married to his boss, and he respects her for that. These kind of idiosyncrasies, plus the precarious situation he's put in, Ethan Hunt succeeds in being a more relatively likable character. I'm only just and you know what? As of right now, I'm only just observing the heart of the movie. I haven't really quite yet got to the meat and potatoes yet. Many people have blasted this film for being overbearingly convoluted, but that is a misnomer. Many people have thought that this movie was more confused than not and whatnot. In fact, David Coep was unmercifully plastered with a Razzie Award for Worst Script. Or at least I think he was nominated, I'm not sure. And that is unfairly unjustified. I think David Coep did a fantastic script. I think people were just pissed off because it wasn't like the action movies that you would see. I mean, you were expecting to see guns, shootouts, explosions, narrow escapes, race for dear life, excitement, instead of seeing more cleverness, more resourceful ways to get through a spy movie. And that not all spy movies necessarily have to be about big explosions or epical gunfights. It's all, most of this movie was about heists, breaking in, trying to unravel conspiracy theories. And that's actually basically what the facet of the Mission Impossible series was. It wasn't about gunfights or stuff like that. In the original series in the 60s, it was basically about, trying to outsmart corruption, It was all about disguising ways to get whoever suspects it is thereafter. And their missions were more cleverly based, more stylistically than substance, which is a very, very good thing. It wasn't about cheap thrills just so that you could fill in, just so you could fill in a bunch of people who are more fascinated about video game theme like junk. This movie was anything but that. So unless you guys have meager attention spans, you may not like a film of this magnitude for those who are expecting a plethora of exciting, flashy thrills or action effects. The film's intentions are for us as a viewer to be involved with the characters and follow them through within each scene. All the scenes, the set pieces, the props, they all flow in a very immaculate perspective. Being antsy to watch something will likely never happen here. You won't probably see too many holy crap, that was fucking awesome type of stuff. No, you probably won't see any of that. And you know what? That's actually a very refreshing way to put it. It doesn't have to be like that. We can actually sit back, enjoy a movie without the cheap thrills. And that's probably what was Brian De Palma's intentions here, was to probably try to like follow through to the original Mission Impossible, which did not have those kind of things. It didn't have, cars blowing up, buildings blowing up, epic gunfights. No, we didn't have any of that in the Mission Impossible series that came out in the 60s and 70s. It was all about trying to outsmart the bad guys without that kind of excessive force. You feel like part of the action with Ethan, and when things start to unfold, you'll probably would react just like the way Ethan does. And what are my favorite scenes in Mission Impossible? Well, as much as I agree with the channel chase as being very exciting, I actually thought the best scenes were his interactions with Phelps coming around near the end. It was Kittredge. Phelps was so convincing. And we all know that Ethan knows that that's far from the truth. We see him summarizing all the events from the Prague mission in his mind. It's not that easy to contradict someone like Phelps, because he's of course Ethan's superior. Then he asks this esoteric question, why, Jim? Why? Which translates to, why would Kittredge do it when really the question is, why would you do it? It's the more deeper content of Mission Impossible that makes this movie so all the more special. The movie is not the all style and no substance that most viewers have complained about. But you know what? To hell with them. I won't let them deprive me from enjoying it. Even after 20 years, this movie never gets old. And if anyone wishes to disagree with me, let them feel free. But your opinions will never change my mind. So if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I definitely give it a 9. It's a great movie, and it's just probably one of the best of the 5. Maybe it could have been the one that was the trendsetter. But then again, as the sequels followed, it turned into more simplified stuff, and they decided to go with the bombings and the explosions and the gunshots. And that's a shame that they didn't keep that tradition alive. So I guess this ends my Rider review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you want to leave a comment, go right ahead. Remember, be kind, be courteous, don't be rude, and I'll be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Carrutherider saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.